Hey, it's Webs here, and it's time to check off a few more cards on my list of cards to visit before they rotate out. In this case, E.T.C, God of Metal, and rock our way to victory with Rush Warrior. So this deck actually went through two iterations, the version that I have on the screen right now, and a version that didn't actually work how I thought it would, which involved a combo between E.T.C, Shoulder Check, Playmaker, and two Faceless Manipulators plus two to the fronts, which was a 6-card combo. The idea was to spawn a bunch of ETCs so you could actually just finish off your opponent by comboing out with a bunch of rush minions, and the theory was that the faceless manipulators would turn into ETC, who was targeted with a shoulder check, which would allow you to actually duplicate them off of Playmaker, but sadly that isn't how the combo actually works, so we ended up with this combo. The main interesting combo in this version of the deck, however, is this, the combo being between Parade Leader and Derailed Coaster. Because you are generating a bunch of 1-cost tokens in your hand, you can easily fill the entire board with 3 ones if you combo these two cards together, and that was the main idea because most decks can't actually beat something like this if you do it early enough, while also allowing you to, if you use to the front with those cards, maybe sneak in a ETC to allow you to do a bunch of damage to your opponent's face if they have a wide board, as this is another way to actually scale the damage in the deck. Though you could also use conditioning as a way to scale all your 1-1s up to 1-cost 3/3s with Rush, which is also pretty good. The Mulligan guide of this deck, you're looking for things like Athletic Studies, Stage Dive, Bumper Cars, Harbor Scamps, Parade Leaders, Ramp Commanders as cards to actually keep in your opening hand. If you have a Parade Leader in your opening hand, it's also pretty good to keep Derailed Coaster in your hand just so you can actually play the combo on turn 5, though most of the time you're probably going to want to play the Parade Leader earlier than turn 5, and you will probably want to combo it out with some other type of rush minion earlier, such as Bumper Cars, as mentioned before. Overall, you're looking for cards that will allow you to easily swarm your opponent with a bunch of cheap minions early on in the game, so you can beat them before late game, and then maybe finish them off with either Mr. Smite or Raid Boss Onyxia, as these are your two big finishers, and are in here because I wanted some type of end game plan in case the small minions didn't work out. With that being said, let's go find some games. Okay, time for a game against Warrior. So this should be a little bit interesting. There are a few Warrior decks floating around now. This hand actually looks really good, shockingly enough. I don't think we're going to mulligan anything away here. Oh, getting rid of the Parade Leader. We don't actually have any rush minions, so I guess that makes a little bit of sense. We got into the second Harbor Scamp, which is alright. We can generate a random minion here. Going to go for Rokara. Oh shit, it's actually Questline. Haven't seen that in a while. Okay, Derailed Coaster is pretty nice to see, I guess. We're going to draw into another minion. Nice thing is, even without generating all the tokens, Derailed Coaster actually should generate a bunch of minions here. They're going to play down their own Harbor Scamp. There's the Parade Leader. That's pretty good. We can play down Rokara, attack into their Scamp, buffing up Rokara, and then buffing up our Scamp. Okay, so they're going to be able to kill Rokara here. It's alright. We don't actually natively run her, so it's not that big of a deal. We're going to play down an Minion, which will trigger the first step of their quest line. We're going to play down Harbor Scamp number 2, drawing into the second Anchorman, getting a Bumper Car here, which is decent. We're just going to rush face because we are playing more of an aggro style deck, so we're going to make them decide if they want to kill our minions or not. Okay, so they play Sword Eater. Trying to think what we can do here. Well, that is the answer to what we could actually do. We could play down him plus the Bumper Car and then finish off both minions. No, Bumper Car won't actually die, but we can at least kill one of them. Then again, giving them the decision between killing our minions or not. Okay, so they are going to kill Bumper Car and then kill Bravo there. In 2 turns, we should be able to do the Derailed Coaster plus Parade Leader combo. I think one of our... No, Anchorman isn't buffed up from Stage Dive, but we could play the parade leader plus the two 1/1s to kill their Anchorman. Now this is going to trigger their frenzy, but it does get rid of the minion on board, which is what we want to do. And unless they have a second one, we should be able to keep our parade leader up for another turn, which is also what we want to do. Well, that's a shock. I guess they're Menagerie Warrior. See, that was a deck that I wanted to try out using rush cards too, but I ended up not doing it. I don't remember why. I just think it felt a little bit either weak or crowded in the deck, as I did try to fill in as many rush minions as humanly possible. There's E.T.C. We're going to use our hero card to get rid of their Cannoneer. That's definitely a deck I want to visit back in the future. Ringmaster is definitely another card that I want to use before he rotates out. I used to actually have a golden card of him, but I disenchanted it for some reason because I got the normal version and I didn't really care about sitting on the dust. Okay, they're going to finish Rokara. So we can actually do something really funny here. We can actually finish them off between E.T.C and the coaster, then just slamming their Rokara into their face. Which Rokara is better, the hero power or the Questline? And now it's Druid's turn to hear our music. Okay, so we're going to want to mulligan away everything that isn't the commander, because the commander is really good for turn 2. Stage Dive is pretty decent for turn 3, I guess, too. Harbor Scamp's actually maybe a better 2-turn play, it really just depends. There's Mr. Smite. We could actually use the Stage Dive just to get another minion in hand. We really felt like it there. But I'd rather have the buff on the whatever minion we draw out of the deck. We're going to play Guess the Weight. Okay, so we're going to play down Harbor Scamp, draw another pirate. Playing down the Harbor Scamp before the commander just because of the fact that Stage Dive can get us the pirate, but this also allows us to lower the possibility of that happening, while also allowing our second Harbor Scamp to actually be online. The amount of draw Druid has, well, we can play the Stage Dive and go face, and then play the bumper card, which triggers the second Stage Dive. Okay, so we can keep going face. We can play down the Ram Commander, and then we could have actually played down one of the Rams themselves, but I'm assuming at this point they're probably Kazakusan Druid. They're going to coin out, I'm assuming, in Guff, because why not coin Guff on turn 5? To be honest, it could be a lot worse. Okay, we can play down the Anchorman and go face again. Our board's actually looking pretty decent, even if they do have Guff out this quickly. We're going to gain a mana crystal, armor up a little bit here, and draw into, I'm assuming, either Kazakusan or Onyxia. We're going to play down Smite just to get in some damage, then keep going face. We're getting them real low. If it is Onyxia and they can play it down on this turn, we ironically can actually finish them off next turn with a E.T.C plus all the 1/1s, and it is Onyxia, which is actually pretty good for us. Only downside is we can't trigger or target Onyxia until all the whelps are dead. Okay, so there's one whelp alive. Shoulder check, interesting. Well, we're going to do nothing yet. We're going to play down the Ram here, which will kill the whelp. We'll attack into Onyxia. We'll play down the Ram, followed by the 2 riders, and we'll win the game through E.T.C. Okay, time for a game against Paladin. Okay, so the only... Overlord is decent, but he's a little bit late game, so I don't know if I want to keep him in the hand. We're gonna mulligan anything away, or everything away besides the parade leader. Now this is looking a lot better. We do have full combo here, though I do think having the command Her in hand is actually pretty good for a turn 2 play, and we do get the second parade leader, so that's pretty decent. Paladin isn't normally a class that can actually deal with a big board like this unless they're using concentration, which I guess is a idea that they could do. Kazakusan Questline Paladin, I think, is going to be one of the next decks that I'm going to put out, though I don't want to fill all the decks out with a Kazakusan deck right away. I think that one's going to be a lot of fun to actually try to make work. Since I think I've been meaning to go back to Questline Paladin, but I keep scrapping it. Okay, we're going to play the Ram Commander. Go face, play down one of the Rams. Barricade, interesting. Well, we only have 5 mana. We can coin out the coaster just to kill both minions. They are going to hit 3 attack because we do have a parade leader on board. And then we can just keep them up, and we missed 2 damage right there. Hopefully that won't bite us in the end. Okay, bless goods. Okay, so what secret could that be? I'm guessing it's going to be Galloping Savior, but in this deck, you don't really spam too many cards until you do a big push turn, and they all have rush, so it doesn't really matter that much in the end. We're going to kill their one minion. It will trigger our frenzy, which is pretty good. Okay, so we got E.T.C in our hand, and even if we've already had the rush minions out, it will still trigger E.T.C, so we might be able to finish them off next turn. Okay, Vital Surge. I'm guessing they're Kazakusan Paladin. Okay, so they healed up for almost full, which is why I didn't actually want to use E.T.C there. We can put down the Harbor Scamp, then Hero Power. It'll put more damage on board. We might have actually wanted to put down the Ram instead, just because it's extra damage, the E.T.C, but 4 damage is better than 3, well, technically 5, I guess. Okay, they're going to put down the Warder, which actually isn't that bad for us. They're going to kill the Coaster, I think. Oh, and they just give up. Alrighty, time for a game against Priest. This hand looks horrible. We're going to keep Shoulder Check just because we can trade it in. And if we don't have any other turn 1 plays, it's decent, I guess. We did draw into Stage Dive, which would have been good, but got Harbor Scamp instead. The 2 coasters is not what I want to see in our starting hand. 1 is good, 2 is too much. There's the Parade Leader, which is pretty decent. We're going to play down the Scamp, which gets us another Scamp. So they're Questline Priest. So this might be a little bit complex for a matchup. We just have to hope we kill them before they can go full combo. Getting the Broomstick is not that good here. Like, I like the flexibility of Broomstick, but I don't think it ever really mattered too much in the long run in any game. Playmaker's interesting just because we can use it with Broomstick to kill their minion while also having minions on board. Right here, I make a misplay. I should really have attacked with the Playmaker instead of the Broomsticks, but oh well. I think I wanted to keep them out of Condemn range, to be honest. We're going to use Palm Reading. Reliquary of Souls. Interesting. We do have Anchorman to get 2 copies of it, and we can actually buff up the Anchorman if we really felt like it. But we're just going to attack into the Reliquary, go fights with our other minions, pass the turn back, Thrive in the Shadows. Questline Priest is always a deck that I'm worried about. It's kind of disappeared in favor of Kazakusan Priest, but it still is pretty relevant. They did generate a Condemn, which sucks. They did manage to kill most of our board, but most people don't normally run Kazakusan in their Condemn in the Priest deck, so I can extend a little bit here. And they had a second Condemn, so I guess they do run it in their deck. I mean, it's a decent AoE, but it only gets really good once you have 10 mana, and that's a little bit too late. Okay, so we got Parade Leader. We're going to put down 1 Parade Leader, +1 coaster, because what's the chances of them having a third one, right? They thrive in the shadows. You're actually having to think about this. I don't know why you had to think that long to have an AoE board clear, but you know, I'm not the one making the choices. Okay, so E.T.C is decent if we can get them to play down a minion. If they don't stick down a minion, then it's pretty much dead. We can play down the second coaster, because what are the chances of them having a second Holy Nova? Oh, I guess in this matchup, for some weird reason, probably pretty high. I would honestly prefer Hysteria over Holy Nova, but that's just me. Okay, a Forge Fiend, so this can actually get a little bit interesting here. Oh, this can actually get a lot interesting. We can play down our hero card, attack with the coaster, then our hero, which will swing in for 8 damage. Then we can play E.T.C, and we should be able to just... Oh, we missed it. We should have played E.T.C here. We would have had lethal. It's really easy in this deck to miss lethal when you're not thinking in terms of E.T.C's damage. We still have ways to get lethal next turn as long as they put down a minion and don't kill our entire board. Actually, if they kill the entire board, we're still fine. Okay, they're going to play their hero card, which doesn't kill our board, which is good. Though it does give them a bunch of armor and a little bit of healing here, I guess. Well, I guess we missed lethal for one turn, but we get it next turn with E.T.C, which is really funny. And now we rock our way to victory. Just going to hero power instead, and they give up. Alright, now that we're through the games, let's discuss my final thoughts of the deck. So overall, the deck performed relatively fine. It wasn't the best deck in the world. It actually performed worse than the Kazakusan Rogue deck that I put out very recently, which is kind of a shock because I assumed a deck like this would actually perform a lot better. But when the meta is surrounded by a bunch of big decks, if you can't finish off your opponent pretty quickly, then you're just going to fall behind, as this deck doesn't have that many answers to try to deal with some of the big threats people can put down. Though one card that I probably would cut out at the end would be Animated Broomstick. This was mainly included just so we could maybe combo E.T.C with a to the front and a Derailed coaster, and make the Derailed coaster actually have rush, so you would get an extra 2 damage off this. Didn't ever really come up, but that's why I would consider cutting it for another athletic studies. However, I will say it is really cool, that basic idea of how this deck actually works, because you are buffing up a bunch of cheap minions in your hand. It's kind of like a hand buff paladin deck, but for warrior, which is actually pretty cool to think about. And there are a lot of ways to actually buff up your minions to bigger than they already are. Shoulder Check was also kind of a disappointment, but at the same time, it was in the deck for a similar reason to the Broomstick. But this came up a little bit more just because it is +2/+1 of stats, plus rush 2, as it could, in theory, make E.T.C into a rush minion himself. So overall, my final thoughts are the deck has seen better days, especially E.T.C, which actually used to be a really big OTK tool. But because cards have rotated out, E.T.C has basically fallen off the face of the planet and is no longer a card that I think is any type of meta relevant, even in an off-meta deck. It can steal some games in this deck in particular, but I think this is probably the best you're going to get with a card like that currently in Hearthstone. And it sucks to say, but it is what it is. At least it is an eyesore from Shaman that never got any time in the spotlight while it was in standard. And with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, bye bye.